What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Technical Fowl podcast. As always, you're joined by the three of us. I'm Jack Anderson. To my right is JP Pusilowski, and to my left is Sanders Oakley. How are y'all doing? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would y'all rate Week 1 of the NFL season?
I would probably say, like 9 or 10, just because that Sunday Night Football game was really good. Last night's game was at first disappointing, and then we went and got Sonic, and then it turned out to not be disappointing towards the end and got interesting a little bit towards the end there. But I think Ravens-Bills made the weekend a 9 or 10.
Sure. JP, your thoughts on Week 1?
0.
Because the Saints lost?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Tough.
Y'all looked all right.
It had 4 chances to tie the game.
Yeah.
In a game where we were anemic offensively. We had the most penalties in the league. Couldn't run the ball. Couldn't throw the ball downfield. We gave up 3 third downs that were 7 yards or more, including 2 that were more than 10 yards. And yet we still had 4 chances to tie the game late with Spencer Rattler quarterback. So it can only go up from there. And then considering how the 49ers injury report is looking right now.
We could get a Mac Jones versus Spencer Rattler matchup in Week 2.
What's the news around? Any chance we see Tyler Shuck this weekend, or are we still very firmly?
It's gonna be Spencer Rattler for a while.
Okay.
That was made very apparent when he was appointed as the starter that this wasn't going to be a short leash.
Is he a captain too?
He is not a captain,
Okay.
no. For the first time since pre-Drew Brees, the Saints quarterback is not a captain on the team.
That's how you know they're not a good QB, is if you can be the QB and not be a captain. It's pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry your team lost. Maybe they can bounce back.
Our
team's won, so we took dubs over here. Though
Big win.
my
A
Commanders
home game.
True.
Huge win at home. We'll talk about it later. I forgot it's one of our
Yeah.
games. I'm not going to get into it.
My Commanders did play one of the worst teams in the league. Bowie looked pretty good doing so. Outgained him by 200-plus yards. Jaden Daniels looked pretty solid. Our run defense looked surprisingly good. A lot of positives, so I'm very happy with it. And now we get the Packers on Thursday night, which is a lot tougher of a task, so I'm interested to see how that one goes. But we're here today to recap Week 1 of the NFL. Mainly the games we talked about in our preview show, that being Kansas City at Chargers, which was really in Brazil, Detroit at Green Bay, and then Baltimore at Buffalo. But before we get into those games, any other big takeaways y'all want to point out or anything else y'all saw from other games that you want to talk about real quick before we dive into those?
I've got a bunch of stuff that wouldn't be real quick.
Well, that doesn't have to be
Do
real
you want to
quick,
save that
but
for your power rankings
No,
later?
just go
no,
into
it
it.
has nothing to do
Okay,
with my
cool,
power
cool,
rankings.
cool.
Just go into
This is just like Week 1 storylines. I thought biggest game of the weekend outside of the games we're going to talk about was Steelers-Jets.
Yeah.
Where the Steelers won 34-32. Rodgers throws for 4 touchdowns. I'm doing a film breakdown on Rodgers and his 4 touchdowns, which you'll see tomorrow. My goodness, the guy can still sling it. The Jets could not stop the play-action pass. They would bite on the play-action every single time. Just like some funny nitbits from the game. So the total points, the Vegas line pregame was 37.5. And, of course, these teams scored 34 and 32 respectfully. So just completely blew that total out of the water. Completely unexpected scoring from both sides. Justin Fields looked good. Threw a deep touchdown. Was good in the rushing attack. Garrett Wilson was good with Justin Fields, which was a surprise. And the Jets covered the spread at -3 or at +3 is where it ended up. Other neat tidbits. Ben Skoranek caught the first touchdown of the game and recovered a fumble on a kick return. Kenneth Gainwell, I should say, had half of the running back snaps. In a room with Jalen Warren and Caleb Johnson, he had 25.
Interesting.
He was the starting running back as well. He had 10 touches and a forced fumble on that special teams kick return. That was really the turning in the game, where the Steelers scored touchdown, kicked it off, got the ball back, scored another touchdown. Chris Boswell made a 60-yarder to take the lead with less than a minute left. And then Jalen Ramsey sealed the game with a big hit on Garrett Wilson. and the Steelers are 1-0. Aaron Rodgers beats the New York Jets. I thought that was like, for me, that was game of the weekend. And it was going to be if Ravens-Bills didn't happen.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I'll go ahead.
It was excellent.
I was going to throw out another game.
Sure.
Colts, Dolphins. I feel like the big takeaway there is the Dolphins offense does not look good. They did not score until the fourth quarter, I believe, and it was a really weird play. It was
Shout out
like
HN.
4th and 11, and they call this little like running back. They swing it out 4th and 11, and he wills himself into the end zone.
Get your best player the ball.
Yeah, true. Probably not a running back on 4th and 11. I don't even know at that point why all the starters are still in the field when you're down 30 or 27-0, 26-0. It was not a close game in the fourth quarter, but they get that touchdown as their first points. The offense just did not look good. Tua had 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown, and his touchdown was the Achane touchdown. So that'll be interesting to monitor. Is what does Mike McDaniels do?
How long is he the
How
head
long
coach
is he
there?
there? Like how long before? How many weeks of bad offense before he's out?
Tua had a fumble, too, on top of that and was
Yeah.
sacked 3 times. Daniel Jones threw for 272 yards and a touchdown, and then was also effective on the ground with 2 rushing touchdowns,
And now people want to change the name to Indiana Jones instead
both
of
of
Danny
which
Dimes.
were basically quarterback sneaks. Tyler Warren was incredible, which I'll get into him in a second. But I would like to remind the audience, Daniel Jones has more playoff wins than
Sure.
Justin Herbert. And then for other storylines, rookies made huge impacts very early on. Emeka Egbuka had 2 touchdowns, including the game winner in Atlanta, which is a beautiful play. If you need,
He called a
if
shot
you can
too.
go get like,
I don't know if you saw that.
yes, he calls a shot on it. He says that he wants to be basically put on a post route, and Tampa Bay comes out in a 3 wide receiver bunch to the right. Atlanta's in a cover 3, and you can see early on while the play is developing, really before it's even snapped, one of Atlanta's corners, who's one of the cover 3 safeties essentially, is communicating to his top safety, Jesse Bates, that, hey, I need your help on the inside here. It clearly looks like we're about to run what they call it's called a pin route combination. It's a post and an in route off of each other. They run the in route with Mike Evans, the Buccaneers' best receiver, and they run the post route over the top with Emeka Egbuka. And you can see Jesse Bates, the top of the middle of the zone, the cover 3, bites on the in route for Mike Evans. Baker Mayfield throws a beautiful ball over the top. Emeka Egbuka, touchdown. Missed extra point. Falcons drive down the field, and in typical Falcons fashion, lose the game in a devastating fashion. But Emeka Egbuka was incredible. 2 touchdowns in the game, and he'll continue to be a threat as long as Chris Godwin and Jalen McMillan are out. But other rookies made huge impacts. Will Johnson, he had 2 pass breakups. He had a pick in the game, but it was called back due to a penalty. He had a 90-plus PFF grade. He was the second best corner in the NFL this weekend, according to PFF.
Almost like he shouldn't have slid into the second round.
Yeah,
I mean, that's hindsight.
He,
He did have knee issues. The hindsight is there.
he
but
looked incredible.
He did.
He was playing the Saints, so I watched pretty much the entire game of him. Your guy, Bill Krosky-Merritt, had 10 carries for 82 yards,
Dog.
which is 4th in the NFL for rushing yards right now. He also had a touchdown and on only 21 total snaps. So he maybe sees more volume as we go forward. 8.2 yards per carry and a touchdown.
He was also the best of. I feel like it was a fairly disappointing week for the rookie running backs.
Mhm.
Either from they just didn't have good O-line play to help, or they didn't get the amount of snaps we thought they would, or they just weren't good in general.
It was-
Other than, I think
but he
Dylan
kinda
Sampson
shined.
might have had
Sure.
the best showing,
Yes,
other
that's,
than maybe
this
Krosky-Merritt.
would be who I would mention next. Dylan Sampson, 12 carries for only 29 yards, but he had 8 catches for 64 yards. 5 of his 8 catches were on swing routes from Joe Flacco, which are basically check downs. And the run blocking was poor. Like, he got hit in the backfield before he had even got to the line of scrimmage multiple times. So the rushing yards, like, really aren't even his fault. Tyler Warren, like I mentioned, the first play of the game is schemed to him as a rookie tight end. He had 9 targets, 7 catches, 76 yards. He also had a carry on a fullback dive on a 3rd and 1 that picked up a first down. A guy we were high on, Armand Mimbu, was the highest rated offensive tackle this weekend with an 89 PFF grade. His pass blocking was not great, but you don't need him to because it's the Jets with Justin Fields, and his run blocking was outstanding. So that's just a bright sign immediately for the Jets that they have an offensive lineman that can help. Carson Schwetzinger, the second-round pick for the Browns, had 8 tackles and a 90 PFF grading. Jahad Campbell, if you watched the Thursday night football game, you saw him be mentioned multiple times. He stopped literally a touchdown on a post route just using his speed. He forced a fumble in the game. And then another Aggie, which there has been an Aggie mentioned, but another one of your guys, Shamar Stewart. He had 3 quarterback hurries, tied for 14th in the league week 1 on just 37 snaps and an 89 PFF grade.
Shout out my guy. I'm glad they signed him.
It's a good sight to see for a guy who basically didn't play for much of training camp. And then finally, I'll end off with, I won't do this every week, but I did want to mention, like, injuries happen, and pretty much every team in the league sustained injuries, and not a lot of them are being talked about as much as they should. So I'm just going to go through really quickly just some of the ones that kind of stand out. Puka Nacua suffered a bad cut above the eye early in the game after a big hit, but he returned to the game. He had 10 catches, 130 yards, and the Rams win. So he's good. He's out of concussion protocol. There's no issue there. George Kittle out with a hamstring injury for likely a month. And then Brock Purdy has a toe injury, also a shoulder injury that could keep him from playing Sunday. We hope he doesn't, as Saints fans. For the Seahawks, a lot of talk was about Kenneth Walker. He is not hurt, by the way. He had a foot injury in camp, but this was expected, was the fact that he was going to split the backfield with Zach Charbonnet, and he split the backfield this week as the Seahawks running back. Julian Blackmon, unfortunately, starting safety for the Saints, tore his labrum on Sunday, and he'll get season-ending surgery. We signed him immediately after the Tyrann Mathieu retirement, so he plays 1 game, and unfortunately he's done for the season. Drake London, Michael Penix's number 1 receiver, was sidelined for the entirety of their final drive before the missed field goal due to a shoulder injury. He should play this coming week, but that's just something to look at. The Bucs missed 5 starters week 1. Of course, Chris Godwin and Jalen McMillan, but they also were without Tristan Wirfs, their starting left tackle, and he's week to week at this point. To continue, the Eagles, Landon Dickerson, as you saw in the Thursday Night Football game, had a back issue. He would eventually get taken out of the game because it tightened up, especially post-weather delay. Sitting there for an hour, he couldn't keep it loose. For the Commanders, Sam Cosmi looks to return week 5 at this point, which will be key for you guys going forward on that offensive line. That was a big question going into this season. For the Packers had 8 guys who were either limited or did not practice today, including Micah Parsons, Matthew Golden. This is expected, though, because they play on Thursday night. Typically, you don't practice in full pads when you play on a Thursday, so nothing to really look at. They are going to host the Commanders on Thursday in a huge game very early on, a potential NFC Championship preview. So nothing really to worry about. None of those guys are, like, hurt. They just did not practice or were limited today. Vikings, Christian Darrisaw, their left tackle, didn't play, as you saw last night. He's still recovering from an ACL, and it doesn't look like he's going to play in week 2 either. Terrion Arnold of the Lions, the cornerback, had a groin injury during the game on Sunday, but is not thought to be serious. He's expected to play in week 2. Sadly, for a lot of fantasy owners, Xavier Worthy dislocated his shoulder on the first series for the Chiefs, but he is expected to play this Sunday. Right now, he's day-to-day. For the Chargers, Denzel Perryman, their linebacker, who was also arrested this offseason, but it is the National Felon League after all, suffered a high ankle injury during the game, and he's week to week. That's your Mike linebacker. He's also the green dot for the Chargers, so that's something to look at going forward. Brock Bowers, kind of a fantasy scare early on, suffered a knee injury during the Patriots game. He left the game, did not return, but he downplayed the severity of the injury, and he says he's doing fine. For the Dolphins, Storm Duck, their cornerback, will miss a couple weeks due to an ankle injury. Not a highly talented corner, but cool name. I just wanted to mention him.
It is a fire name.
Storm Dunk will unfortunately miss a couple weeks. With the Bills, a big thing in that Sunday Night Football game was the kicker. Tyler Bass went on IR last Friday, and Matt Prater took the red eye to the game and kicks a game winner along with other kicks during the game. Tyler Bass will not play for the first 4 weeks with a hip injury. Let's see. For the Ravens, they were without Isaiah Likely. Maybe that's why they lost. Probably not. Their offense was absolutely insane even without him, but he might return this week. For the Browns, Quinshon Judkins is expected to play this week after finally signing his rookie contract. For the Steelers, their first-round pick, Derek Harmon, sprained his MCL in camp, missed week 1, will not play in week 2 either, but they won, so spirits are high there. Aggie legend Christian Kirk did not play on Sunday for the Houston Texans, but should return this week. For the Jaguars, no real injury news, but Travis Hunter played 28 passing snaps and 6 defensive snaps, so only 34 snaps on Sunday. Obviously, you're hoping that that'll ramp up, and the expectation, at least from Liam Cohn, is that will ramp up as the season progresses, but only 34 snaps for a guy as much stamina as he has is kind of surprising for his rookie debut. This is kind of a big one for the Colts after they get the big win over the Dolphins. Charvarius Ward is in concussion protocol as of yesterday, which is Monday, so the day after the game. This likely means he's not going to pass concussion protocol, and he most likely won't play on Sunday because of that. And then for the Titans, if you're a Cam Ward guy, for Harris, is he still a Titans?
Yeah.
Okay. J.C. Latham, their left tackle from Alabama, second-year guy, aggravated a hip injury, and he left the game on Sunday. He's likely to play this Sunday, though. And that kind of caps off all of your injury news.
Sure.
I know it's a lot, but it's something that kind of goes unnoticed as the season progresses. And these teams are going to get weaker and weaker, and death may play a factor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I mean-
another. Oh, sorry, I had
Go
another
ahead.
takeaway. Christian McCaffrey led the league in rushing attempts this last weekend, which I thought was an interesting takeaway, given that he was questionable leading up to the game, and given the injury concerns he's had, a very injury-prone career. That kind of caught me off guard, so that'll be something else to monitor. It kind of goes hand in hand with the injuries you were just talking about, as a guy that didn't get injured and led the league in rushing attempts. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think given the other skill position guys the 49ers have, if Christian McCaffrey can play,
Yeah.
they're going to use him a ton.
Yep.
Also, you just mentioned the Titans. I just want to give another rookie a shout-out. I feel like Kim Ward played well.
Yeah.
Despite their offense as a whole not playing well. I feel like his wide receivers let him down, but he made multiple big-time throws. Calvin Ridley has to catch the ball. Kim Ward's dad already is 1 week in, and he may not survive the season the rate it's going. He's in a tough situation there, but I thought he performed well for his first game in the NFL.
I agree. I haven't gotten into the film, but everything that I've seen has been positive, and drops were a
Sure.
big part of that game. And then just like questionable clock management from the AFC West champions, Denver Broncos. That was just kind of
what's the record of your AFC West champion right now?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
I think the Chiefs
can
look
we
better
pull up
than
the division winners of the past decade?
Well,
if you don't mind.
once we do that, we can go over like what the standings
So-
are
Sure,
right
sure,
now.
sure.
I don't know if
I think the Chiefs look better than the Broncos did.
They
week one.
probably
I will
definitely
say-
did. The Chiefs did look better than the Broncos did.
the worst season Patrick Mahomes has ever had is losing in overtime in the AFC Championship game. So
Sure. That's
I didn't
That's a pretty,
say he wasn't going to the
That's
AFC
a pretty
West
terrible
championship.
season,
Good
honestly.
luck.
Cool. Well, any other tidbits before we get
No,
into
I think
our,
we
our
can
three
actually
games?
get into the actual games.
Cool.
Speaking of Mahomes,
Yep. First game we're gonna review is the Friday night game, Chiefs at Chargers in Brazil. Touted big time divisional matchup to start the season for these two teams. And the Chargers get it done. Justin Herbert's awesome. Patrick Mahomes, I thought, played a great game too. But the Chiefs just came out, had a game plan, executed it, were aggressive from the start, and just kind of kept the Chiefs at bay, got out to an early lead, and then managed to hold on, managed to bleed out the clock at the end of the game. Justin Herbert has a huge 3rd and 14 rush to seal the game. And that's all she wrote. The Chargers are 1-0, beating the Chiefs for the first time in a minute. And the Chiefs are head back to the U.S. 0-1. Initial thoughts on this game, guys?
I was really pleased with the wide receiver play. Lad McConkey continued to play like he did last year in his second year. Keenan Allen comes back after being in Chicago for a year and plays very well. He was a very consistent guy, had 7 receptions, 68 yards, and a touchdown, but 6 of his 7 receptions were first downs, and it's just super good for Herbert. It's very helpful to have a guy who you can depend on to
Nice security blanket.
find that right spot, right? One of the best, as a wide receiver, a very good trait is knowing where to find the soft spots in the zone and get the right amount of yardage. You don't need the extra 5, just find the first down. Allen did that a lot. Quentin Johnston also looked really good. I was joking all night about how pick him up in your fantasy leagues and everything after his first touchdown. And then he caught a second one. He had 5 receptions, 79 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 drops. Who did I say he stole his hands from? Was it who had the drop? Hollywood Brown had the drop on the little curl route, and it just went through his hands. So I said that Johnson stole his hands from Hollywood Brown. 0 drops there. I'll be interested to see. Jack, you made the point that he's had good games before, but it was refreshing to be like, all right, maybe now the first-round pick is finally going to work out. I would not bet on it working out, but that was exciting to see. I also was really happy with the defense. I think holding the Chiefs to only 21 points was a huge deal. At their best, the Chiefs have been averaging 30 points a game. So 2018, 2019, 2022, 2023 were all 29 to 34 points a game. That was their average. And we were kind of expecting going into the season in our Chiefs preview, we talked about how Mahomes, we expected this to be a big offensive year from him. He brings Hollywood Brown back from injury, Xavier Worthy in his second year. We were expecting to have Rashee Rice, which that's not happening for a couple weeks. Travis Kelce comes back and is supposed to have had a good offseason and come back and have not prime Travis Kelce, but better than last season. So we were expecting a really good Chiefs offense and could still get that. But holding the Chiefs to 21 points, I think was really, really exciting to see, even with guys like Juju, Smith-Schuster, Xavier Worthy, and Hollywood Brown all on the field. That was awesome. But yeah, those are kind of my takeaways. I liked what I saw from the wide receiver core. The running game was a little bit underwhelming, but I think that was just taking advantage of what you had. Justin Herbert had over 300 yards passing, 9.4 yards per completion. I think that they were taking advantage of what they had. O'Marion Hampton averaged 3.2 yards per carry. Y'all asked me before on Thursday, I think it was Tuesday or Thursday, what would I need to see from him to feel good? Because in the draft, my take was O'Marion Hampton was closer to Aston Genty than RB3 was to O'Marion Hampton. I do not feel good about that take right now. I didn't really see anything that I was like, all right, time to, hang my cap on this. We're good to go. But I think it was much the offense just taking what was given to them. It was a lot of passing yardage.
Sure. JP?
Just a few things. Hollywood Brown had twice as many catches as Quentin Johnston, so I don't know if he necessarily stole Hollywood Brown's hands. I'll also say, to spin this in the Kansas City way, Xavier Worthy gets hurt on the 3rd play of the game. Rashee Rice is not playing for the first 6 weeks. It's the first game of the season. It's also in a different country, so the travel plans are different there. For me right now, I think it's too much of an overreaction. You should celebrate holding Kansas City to 21 points, considering how well Mahomes was playing on Friday night. But I don't think this is a sign of continued success going forward against Kansas City and that offense, because they're without, for one, their 2 best weapons in Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, who are both arguably wide receiver ones. They were without both of them are vertical passing threats, and because of that, it was dink and dunk from Kansas City the entire night. Really only a few deep ones. Tyquan Thornton, Travis Kelce, and Hollywood all had 3 pretty deep catches, but outside of that, there were really nothing over the top. I think Kansas City's fine. They're chilling. The fact that they were in this game, I think, was more of a statement considering how it really started, and how it was really going with the way that Justin Herbert was throwing the ball down the field, averaging almost 10 yards of completion. That's not something they expected to occur, and for them to still be kind of in the game, you miss a field goal in the game. So you're leaving points out there. they have nothing to be worried about personally. I think the only thing that concerned me right off the bat was, man, they need some kind of ground game. Outside of Mahomes, 10
Agreed.
carries, 31 yards, so 3 yards per carry. That has to change going forward, or they're not going to have the success that they want to have, because it's how you play football. You run to set up the pass, and you run to set up the play action pass especially. And that's something Kansas City has always been good at, is running the ball. It doesn't really matter who is at running back. They've got a guy that's going out there and getting 70 yards, which allows them
10 carries for how many yards?
10 carries for
41 yards.
41 yards.
So 4.1 yards per carry.
My problem really is just 10 carries.
Yeah.
More
that
specifically
is fair. 100%.
that it was 39 passing attempts for Mahomes against a defensive line with Khalil Mack. That can't continue going forward, and hopefully it doesn't. They need Xavier Worthy back immediately. Like him, he is the speed threat. He's the over-the-top threat. And once you don't have that, the safeties can creep up. The box gets crowded. It becomes harder to run. It becomes harder to do what Mahomes is best at, which is his intermediate passing game. So there were concerns there. But Kansas City, there should be no overreaction. This is the first time the Chargers have beat them in 7 attempts, so I don't think they're really worried about the Chargers. If they played them in the postseason, they'd beat them right now, straight up, because that's who they are. But it's a great win for the Chargers. Like it puts them ahead in the AFC West immediately. It gives one half of the tiebreaker potentially with Kansas City going forward. And those are pivotal, especially if both these teams end up around 11, 12 wins. That decides who could win the division. And that's kind of the thing for the Chargers, for the Broncos, and even for me, for the Raiders. Like, if they're going to, be competitive, you got to be competitive in your division first.
Sure.
And
this is a great first step for Los Angeles.
I'll say, as far as the passing game goes, I feel like the Xavier Worthy thing, I want to reiterate how important that was, because watching the game, there were a lot of throws that Mahomes missed, specifically to Tyquan Thornton, and I wonder if Worthy wasn't hurt or if Rashee Rice wasn't suspended, are those completions, because those are the guys you're used to the first team reps with. So I'm not, I don't think the Chargers, there's no victory lap to be taken. You're 100% right that if they played again, the Chiefs would be favored. The Chiefs still have a very good team. It's a big win for the Chargers, but the Chiefs were missing some important pieces. Chargers took advantage of that.
It hurts the most because he gets hurt on the third play of the game, meaning you have spent all of the offseason game planning for this game, and you have your packages for Xavier Worthy,
And you don't get to use
and you don't get to use them.
Yeah.
If you had known he had dislocated his shoulder on Monday, Kansas City probably wins this game potentially because they get the game played differently. And that just hurt them a ton. I thought it just slowed the momentum immediately. And then for Herbert and the Chargers to go down and score a touchdown, and immediately you're behind the 8 ball, it was really just not a good spot to be in for Kansas City.
Yeah, I agree. It's tough because we've talked all offseason about how we expected this offense to be back. And then Rashee Rice gets suspended, and we're like, okay, well, they have Xavier Worthy so they can tread water till Rashee Rice gets back, and then it'll be really good. And then we immediately lose him too, and it's like it's back to last year's offense in a lot of ways of just not enough weapons to really make explosive plays and do what they want to do. So that's really tough, but it is a huge win for the Chargers. We've reiterated it multiple times. Anytime you can beat the Chiefs, regardless of how beat up the Chiefs are, that's a huge win. As a divisional opponent, someone they never beat. You could see what it meant to them on the sidelines after they won, after Herbert's slide to seal the game on that first down. They were hyped. They were hyped in the presser. Jim Harbaugh was giving Justin Herbert all the praise in the world, talking about how he's no normal man, or a lesser man would have been killed if he took that hit, stuff like that. So the spirits are very high there. I thought they played well. Joe Alt looked fantastic, which I will say we didn't expect him not to look fantastic.
I believe he had graded out as the best pass blocking tackle in the NFL Week 1.
Correct. So the fact he changed sides, I didn't really expect him not to be bad, but he was fantastic. He's going to be one of the best tackles in the game, and that's huge for them. Obviously, you'd love to have him and Slater both, but he played really well. So good win all around for them.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on this game?
Chiefs defense. I think I was trying to look last year. They allowed 20 points per game, and 2 years ago I think won a Super Bowl on the back of the defense. Was that the defensive Super Bowl?
Yes.
So allowing 27 points at a neutral site, definitely not great when you're playing, as JP would call, not a great quarterback, Justin Herbert. I'm just trolling there. I don't think there's any concerns. I don't think there's any concerns there from the defense. I was kind of trying to think through that. How do we feel about the Chiefs defense? Good going forward?
I think it'll be fine going forward. I would have liked more pressure on Herbert in that game. I feel like
I sacked him 3 times.
Yeah, but overall, I feel like he was able to stand and deliver in the intermediate passing game a lot, and the crossers had time to develop time and time again and just kind of eat alive that zone, and that's when Herbert feasted. So the pressure probably could have been a little better. The coverage in the backside could have been a little better. Maybe they can adjust next time they play and take some of that stuff away. But it was a lot of easy completions for Herbert across the middle, 10, 15 yards down the field.
Yeah, I thought they played too much man. I don't know the numbers on it specifically, but it felt like every single time he was finding these guys, it was because they were playing man, especially on hitting the crossers and everything. I just didn't think. For me, I felt like you try and go make Justin Herbert beat you, and you go make him to make a quarterback beat you, make him beat zone coverage more often than man coverage. It's way harder to read, and I just thought they kind of failed there. But I wouldn't be worried about their defense. Like 27 points that's still not a lot of points anyway. That's not in the 30s or anything. And going forward, like offensively, it hurt them a ton. I don't know the time of possession off the top of my head. 27 minutes to 32, and Kansas City just really didn't sustain drives here and there, especially with the 3 and outs. It didn't help them a lot. I'm not too worried about the defense going forward. I think the only thing you really have to consider is just the Justin Herbert scrambling game. The game plan, especially down at the end of the fourth quarter, not having something or being able to shut that down when you know that's how quarterbacks win games. At the end of the day, is scrambling and picking up big yards and picking up big first downs. That's how Mahomes wins a bunch of his games, is picking up
that's how he kept him in this game.
A
was
third
his
down. I think that's maybe a potential issue going forward. That's something to definitely consider, especially when you're playing Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, all of these quarterbacks in the AFC that are just capable of doing those kinds of things. That's something to be concerned about. But I think you just chop it off to it was week 1, out of the country, traveling. You're without your top 2 weapons. They really shouldn't have any issues. I think the biggest thing that you should hold your hat on is Mahomes is still Mahomes, and I also think Mahomes looked faster than he has looked in the past 5 years. He looked lean. He looked like Dak did on Thursday night, where it was just like, oh, Mahomes isn't really fat anymore. Dak was cut. Like, Dak was not fat anymore, and he showed that. He made big plays in the Thursday night football game where he was escaping, where he would not have escaped in the past few years. I thought just Mahomes looked really, really fast, and he makes his classic Mahomes plays again. So I think still knowing you have that as he approaches the age of 30 is a really positive sign to know that, if we have that, we have a chance.
Yeah. Now they get to go prove that they're fine against the Eagles at home.
Mm-hmm.
Go make a statement there. But we can move on to our next game. A very fun one because of the Micah Parsons news. But the Lions go to Green Bay and face the Packers, a place they've had good success. They've had great success under Dan Campbell at Lambeau Field. Unfortunately, they did not have success on Sunday. They lost 27-13. The Packers punched early offensively and then kind of rode their defense the rest of the way in a lot of ways. Their offense was fine, but their defense really, really impressed me throughout that game. Limited the Lions' explosive plays, limited their rushing attack like crazy. It was a ton of fun to watch. It was kind of a clinic, in my opinion. But they win 27-13, make a statement in the NFC North, Y'all's thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is what you said, the Packers taking away explosive plays. Jared Goff attempted 39 passes and completed 31 of them for only 225 yards. He had 1 touchdown and 1 interception. He averaged 5.8 yards per completion. It was just a lot of checkdowns, a lot of short passes. There was nothing over the top. The Packers completely took that away. And I think my immediate reaction, and he also took 4 sacks. Like, it was just a bad day offensively, and my immediate reaction is that because of the Packers' defense, or is it because of the loss of Ben Johnson? Did losing the offense...
Frank Ragnow as well.
And Frank Ragnow, yeah, not trying to disrespect him. The run game also struggled a lot. So I think 2.1 yards per carry on the ground was not great. So I think that'll be interesting to see as the season goes on. Is the Packers defense just elite with that Micah Parsons addition? Is that something we're going to see them constantly shut down teams that have good offenses? Can Alliance bounce back? I think we'll have to kind of wait and see. But what really impressed me was the Packers offense and the Jordan Love, who he regressed. He's good again now. He was fantastic. Sure. He was 16 for 22. He had completions to 10 different guys. No wide receiver had more than 3 receptions. So, I mean, it was the definition of sharing the wealth. 2 wide receivers with touchdowns, 3 guys with 4 or more targets. It was just so many guys getting the ball. And this is kind of, I still stand by my statement of, I think that most of these guys could be like, there are a lot of wide receivers in the NFL who could come in and be wide receiver 1 in Green Bay. So I don't love any of these guys as a true wide receiver 1 right now, but the benefit is that they're all in that tier of wide receiver 2A. They're very good wide receiver 2s, which means you've got to guard 3 wide receiver 2s on the field at the same time. You're not guarding a wide receiver 1, 2, and a 3.
A massive benefit on that is, like, if one guy gets hurt, it's not going to matter.
Right, exactly. Yeah. You're not going to see what happened to the Chiefs where Xavier Worthy goes down, and then it's just kind of tough to get the ball going through the air. So that was something the Packers did really well, and I was very impressed with Jordan Love and his ball distribution on Sunday.
Sure. Yeah. JP?
So if the season was 1 game long, I just went 30 for 30. I just pitched a perfect game, honestly, with how I felt in the pregame or preseason, with how I felt about these teams going into the game, with all the stories and everything, everything that I feel like I've predicted and thought was going to happen happened. And if the season was just 1 game long, 1 week long, I just had a perfect game for this season. Start off I'll just go through them. Offensively, the Jared Goff and the Lions, poor. I completely expected that without Ben Johnson. Jared Goff is now misleading stat, but he's now 0-16 without Sean McVay or Ben Johnson calling plays for him. Those, of course, with Jeff Fisher, and then the first 7 games under Dan Campbell where they were 0-7. So, misleading, but it's a storyline maybe going forward. Rushing, I talked about with the Frank Ragnow retirement. 3rd in the league with Frank Ragnow in terms of run blocking success. 22nd in the 3 games he missed last year. They run for 2.1 yards per carry against the Packers defense with a healthy David Montgomery and a healthy Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm correct there. Defensively, I thought they were going to be really, really good. One thing we talked about is Rashawn Gary might improve and might play well. Rashawn Gary had 1.5 sacks. Obviously, everyone expected Micah Parsons to make an instant impact, and he did. Literally, the first snap of the game for him is a 3rd and 9. He gets an inside pass rush, wins up Penei Sewell, forces Jared Goff to roll out and throw the ball essentially away for a little short 3-yard completion. He also forces the interception late in the game. He gets an early pass rush to Jared Goff. Goff has to get rid of it before he wants to, and Evan Williams is right there baiting Jared Goff for an easy pick. Jordan Love looked great, as I completely expected. The receivers were great. Matthew Golden on tape was open.
He won all the time. He won so many routes.
He was open so much. It was just Jordan Love didn't go there. And he'll go there eventually, so nothing to worry about with Matthew Golden. The vibes were high. A big win. They've already met Sanders' quota for wins at Lambeau Field this year
Huge.
with one, and they've only played one game there. They'll host another one on Thursday, so they have a chance to break that within the first week of the season. So that'll be interesting to see. But I just feel like everything I expected to occur occurred. But the problem is it's only one game.
Yeah.
And so they've got a lot of things they have to continue to prove. Last year they were 1-5 in the division, so they start 1-0 in the division, and that's a huge step forward. You go and watch the Monday Night Football game, and there's just like kind of no debate that the Packers are the best team in the division right now. We'll just have to see how health holds up.
Sure.
But I think a big thing of it is defensively, I think they have a ton of depth there. They have a ton of guys that can make impacts. So if we get late in the season and you're without Rashawn Gary, well, you have Edgerrin Cooper, who was outstanding.
Van Ness played well.
On Sunday. Lucas Van Ness was outstanding. We don't expect Micah to really be hurt because he really never has been. With the way Evan Williams played, he was one of the best safeties according to PFF. You add that on top of having Xavier McKinney, like that defense should just be really good. So if you can keep Jordan Love healthy, and I think another one is Josh Jacobs needs to stay healthy. They don't have a ton of depth there at backup running back. This is the team to beat for me in the NFC after week 1.
I agree with everything you said. The defense was just simply fantastic. They gave up 2 explosive plays to this Lions team, a 32-yard pass to Laporta, and then I think a 19-yard pass to St. Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Jahmyr Gibbs caught 10 passes, and they never let him take like a short dump off and use his speed as a weapon, and suddenly he's 20 yards downfield. Edgerrin Cooper and other Packers were all over those all day long. He had like 30 receiving yards on 10 receptions. So really I come away from this game more impressed with the Packers than I am worried about the Lions, especially long term. I think the Frank Ragnow loss is huge, but it's just a terrible spot for the Lions to be in. His first game with new coordinators, first game without Ragnow, long term. Obviously, they played a couple with him last season. And to have to play this defense, it's just they were put in a tough spot. And sure, they didn't perform well, and I do have questions, but they can grow and they can get better throughout the season. It's just, yes, they played possibly the best, a top 3 defense, I'll say that, in the NFL, and it was just not a good spot to be in. So
I think that's part of it, but I also think there's no reason to not be concerned because for them to be shut down that much offensively where you only have 2 explosive plays for an offense that is built on creative play calling, explosive plays down the field, I think that's a concern going forward because that was their MO the past 2 seasons, was just racking up points. And you can have games where it doesn't happen here and there, but I don't think you can watch really any of that game and think, oh, that can't happen again. Like, it just won't happen again.
I mean, at some point, they'll have another game that happens again, but they've done it for the past couple seasons, and that was one game. They still have Jahmyr Gibbs. They still have Jameson Williams. Amon-Ra St. Brown's still there. Laporta's still there. David Montgomery's still there. Jared Goff, while I don't love him, he's a capable QB. Like, all the weapons are still there, so I'm not going to hit the panic button or be too overly concerned over one game where they played an elite defense, in my opinion.
I'm panicked.
Okay.
You've been panicked, though, so.
Yeah. I mean, I think I have the Packers winning the NFC North, so if I'm concerned in the sense of I don't think the Lions are top dog in the division anymore, then sure. But, I'm not concerned in terms of, this
you
Lions
don't have
team
them
is
going
no
6
longer,
and 11.
Yeah, I'm not saying this Lions team is, they're no longer good.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned like that. Other
All right.
thoughts? Anything else, Anders?
I think I'm good.
Cool.
We
It was
can-
fun. It was so fun to watch this Packers team play. It was a joy. I'm really sad that the Commanders have to play them Thursday and I have to root against them because they are a ton of fun. We can move on to our third game we broke down, though, and previewed, and now we can review it. Excuse me. And that is the Sunday Night Football game with Baltimore at Buffalo. An absolute shootout. These offenses were amazing. It looked like the Ravens were maybe going to run away with it. They're up 40-25 with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. People are overreacting like crazy on Twitter. Oh, it's over. The Bills are
wasn't
bad
just Twitter.
now.
Chris Collinsworth.
Chris Collinsworth.
He was starting to, sign it, and it was done. He was
Yeah.
like, the NFL needs to be scared of these Baltimore Ravens and the way they dominated the Buffalo Bills. And I didn't send it. I was about to tweet Chris Collinsworth needs to shut up because this game's not over. But then I didn't want people to be like, well, like for the Ravens to win it, and then people call me a bozo for saying what's true, and then turned out to be true. Continue.
But no, they're up, and then all of a sudden Derrick Henry fumbles, and Josh Allen leads them back, and suddenly they're within 2, going for a 2-point conversion to tie it, and they don't get the 2-point conversion. And it's like, man, great try, but I guess it maybe will come up a little short. And the Ravens go 3 and out and punt it away, and Josh Allen leads them right back down the field, and they kick the game-winning field goal. Shout out Matt Prater. Huge kick there. You mentioned he just joined the team.
He took the red-eye flight on Friday morning because they notified him like late Thursday that they were going to put Tyler Bass on IR on Friday. And so he took the red-eye Friday morning to Buffalo, where he was out in Arizona. He had played for the Cardinals last year, played in Buffalo week 1, and was the Cardinals kicker all of last year. Red Eye was with the team Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, 3 field goals, 2 extra points in the game winner.
He's like that. But a very fun game to watch. We saw why both these teams were really highly regarded coming into the season as 2 of the elites in the AFC. But what are y'all's thoughts on this game? What did y'all see?
The Baltimore Ravens run game is, as expected, dominant. Do you know how many yards per carry Derrick Henry averaged on 18 attempts?
So like 9?
It was almost 10, 9.8 or 9.4. Sorry, 9.4 carry or yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Lamar on his 6 rush attempts averaged 11.7 with a touchdown. As a team, on 29 rush attempts, they averaged over 8 yards per carry. I mean, the Bills' defense, it was constantly like you were just like, if they handed the ball off, you're like, all right, where's the safety? He's going to have to make the play here because the linebacker's not there. And I don't know if it was, bad positioning by linebackers. I think that there was the one play where a corner, it was the Derrick Henry touchdown, where it was either a corner or a safety who was playing close, thought he had him, and it turns out Derrick Henry's just way faster than you think. Beat him to the edge, and it was just an easy touchdown.
Yeah, Taylor Rapp.
Yes, thank you, Rapp. So the run game was insane, and the Ravens were dominant for most of this game. I don't think the Bills really turned it on until the fourth quarter. That's when they scored 15 points, 16.
Scored 22 in the fourth.
22, thank you. 22 in the fourth. Josh Allen had how many pass yards in the fourth quarter?
260 or something like that.
He had 289 total yards.
That's, yeah.
269 total yards, sorry.
So the Ravens did dominate for
Yeah,
much
so-
of the game, but then the fourth quarter they really turned it on. You can go ahead.
Do you know who is, you probably do know this because he's your guy, most passing yards in a fourth quarter in NFL history?
Yeah, and a loss. Drew
That
Brees.
is really tough.
Yeah, Drew Brees.
292, though. That's wild.
Yeah.
You're right, though. The Ravens' offense looked fantastic. It did stall at the end, which is kind of starting to become a bit of a worrying trend in terms of Ravens not closing games or not executing great down the stretch. I personally also would have liked to see them go for it on 4th and 3 because the way the Bills were moving the ball, it just kind of felt like if you give Josh Allen the ball back, it was over. And then to hear Lamar say what he said in the presser, I don't love that necessarily either.
What did he say?
He was basically like, oh, I was cramping. So that's why we didn't go for it.
For me, the problem was not even that play call, deciding whether or not to go. It's the fact that Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry were beating Buffalo the entire night.
Yeah.
And you gave the ball to Derrick once, and you threw it, or you handed it off to Zay Flowers the other time, and then you just threw a little in route, a short one. The ball was never in Lamar's chance with a chance to win the game. The ball was really never in Derrick Henry's hands with a chance to win the game. And I thought that was the problem. Like, for me, if Buffalo had they converted the 2-point conversion that Keon Coleman kind of drops on the little fade route to tie it at 40, Baltimore wins that game because they just play aggressive. They continue to play the kind of offense they've been playing the entire game. They drive down the field. They give it to their young kicker who hadn't missed yet. He made a 50-yarder in the game. They kick the game-winning field goal and win. But because they were so scared about losing to Josh Allen on a game-winning field goal, they were so worried about trying to make sure Buffalo used all their timeouts. They took their foot off the gas, and for how electric they were. Derrick Henry's averaging 9.4 yards per carry. You only need 10 yards for a first down, and they just give it to him 3 times. Hell, they'd run 3 read options with Lamar and Derrick Henry, and they didn't do that. And that cost them the game, and this is kind of a reoccurring theme for them as well. It's just in these big games, they have so many just like questionable moments. And for a franchise that everyone views so highly in the Baltimore Ravens, and for John Harbaugh, who everyone views so highly because of his continued success over multiple decades, these moments continue to just occur for really no explanation. And for me, like, it really makes me feel like this is the last year of Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh. And Lamar's not going anywhere because he's got a nice, healthy contract. So this may be John Harbaugh's last year in Baltimore if they can't get it done and win the Super Bowl. Because this kind of, excuse my language, this kind of shit can't continue to happen. You cannot lose a game like this. It's not like this is just a loss to, like, the Raiders last year in Week 2 where you come off the devastating loss to the Chiefs. No, this is to the Bills. This is for home field advantage. This is to give yourself a chance to host Buffalo instead of having to go to Buffalo in the postseason again for a third time. This can't happen, especially with how good your offense is playing the entire game. And so it's inexplicable, and it really just brings a ton of questions under Baltimore, which is crazy because if they just pick up 10 yards,
this conversation is not happening.
They're on top of a pyramid I'm about to reveal.
Yeah. It's a great point. I mentioned it's kind of becoming a bit of a trend earlier, and it's simply that. Like, it is becoming really hard to trust this team in key moments. They came in and it was all business. They built this huge lead. It's like, okay, they know what this game means. They know it probably means the 1 seed in the AFC, and then they go and piss it down their leg. It's just very frustrating to watch for such a good team to continually do that in big moments. It's pretty inexplicable.
Yeah, it's also, I don't know. I feel like saying that this could be the end for John Harbaugh, not Jen. John Harbaugh is a little extreme when I think that this came down to like really like 2 fluky plays. Derrick Henry, the guy who's fumbled 3 times in the last 34 games, so once every 10 games, fumbles, which he does not do. Wild. And then the Josh Allen tip that Keon Coleman is somehow just standing, like, that's not something that the Ravens can plan or account for. That's not something the Bills
don't let Keon
drew
Coleman
up.
be open, man.
I mean, he wasn't open
I
until
agree.
the pass was short and the defenders leave and then it gets tipped. I mean, it's just wild stuff.
I agree.
Yeah.
But that is something that's going to happen because of the shape of a football. It's just bounces are going to happen.
Yeah.
Bounces are not going to go your way. Bounces are going to go your way. They still had the ball 1st and 10 with how good their offense was playing, and they took their foot off the gas pedal. That is what's inexplicable for me. And then also, like, we talk about Baltimore. I talked about Baltimore in our preseason was like, we remember their defense to begin the year. It was really piss poor. But actually, statistically, at the end of the year, they were one of the best defenses in the league. And then you come into week 1, you give up 41 points to Josh Allen when you arguably have added pieces on the defense. When you add a guy like Mike Green out of Marshall, and you add Malachi Starks, and Kyle Hamilton is fully healthy, and Roquan Smith is fully healthy, like, that's another part of it. Because, like, the Ravens, kind of culture is built on tough defense. It always has been, and that's another thing that you can control. I understand, like, fluke plays happen, but, like, people are going to make mistakes. Zay Flowers is going to get the ball knocked out in the AFC Championship game. That's going to happen. But what do you do on the other drives? What are you doing in your decision making? When are you executing in the other circumstances? And they just aren't. And I wouldn't fire John Harbaugh because of the success he's had and that organization. He deserves a long time or a life contract. He's won a Super Bowl there, 2 of them exactly. So There's no reason to, but it don't, like, you have Lamar Jackson, you have one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time from a talent perspective,
And you're just wasting it up
and
to
you're
this point.
wasting it.
Yeah.
And you also have, like, the fact that, like, it's no multi-time MVP has not won a ring. And Lamar, it doesn't look like that's in his future if stuff like this is going to continue to happen.
Yeah, sure. I don't disagree. Talking about their defense, we expect it to be good coming into this season, and then they give up 41, like you said, JP. Any long-term concern there, or are you just kind of more so chalking this up to it's week 1 and you had to play Josh Allen?
I think there should be, because on one hand, Josh Allen is arguably the best quarterback in the league from a talent perspective. The dude is just insane. The throws he makes, because of the amount of arm strength he has and just his talent, he makes throws that you can't defend, and he makes throws to players that you would never think were going to happen. Like, there are throws he makes in that game on Sunday night that just, you can clearly watch the corner and they're just like their head just turns and just goes by him. It's just like, how did the ball get there that quickly? But still, look at the Bills' weapons. They don't have big-time weapons. You should be able to shut down Keon Coleman.
I don't know.
Khalil Shakir.
Keon Coleman's chain after the game?
Joshua Palmer has 6 catches for 59 yards.
That's a wide receiver 1 chain right there.
That I think is a concern going forward, because with the division, or not with the division, with the conference you're playing in, you're going to continue to play elite quarterbacks. You need to be able to shut down weapons. And arguably, all of the other AFC teams have better weapons than this. Chargers really the only argument where you could say the weapons are about the same, but Jamar Chase, T. Higgins,
Jerry Jeudy.
Okay.
Dylan Sampson.
That was not
Joe Flacco.
Not
You
where I
gotta
was
watch
going,
out.
but like C.J. Stroud has Nico Collins and Woody Marks. So it's a concern, I think, going forward, that this is maybe the same defense we saw at the beginning of last year.
Sure.
But if they continue to play offense the way they do, it may not matter. The problem is you get into a spot like Detroit last year. Their offense was outstanding the entire year, and then you get into a spot where the other team just outshoots you. And that's going to happen way more often, and defense wins championships for a reason, so they're going to have to get this together.
I have a question.
Sure.
And JP's talked a lot, so Jack, if you want to answer, you can, or you can redirect it to
Okay.
JP. We were talking in the yapping group chat after the game about the Bills defense. So let's turn and flip it. We'll talk about the Ravens defense. They gave up 41. The Bills defense gave up 40.
Sure.
How do we feel about the Bills defense going forward? Because this is the second Super Bowl favorite behind the Ravens.
I don't feel great. And I didn't feel great pre the season. The secondary concerns are very much there for me, both from a talent standpoint, like in camp, and then they've sustained some injuries, so it's even weaker to the point, they're re-signing Jordan Poyer to a deal, trying to make something happen, piecemeal something together back there. And so I didn't feel great about their secondary. And I know it's the Ravens and the rushing attack is great, but you have your front 7 shredded like that on the ground just does not exude confidence or help me feel any better about a unit I already felt bad about. So I have concern there as well. Andrew McBride is the one that made the comment of he doesn't know if this defense is good enough to win a championship, and I was like, I agree, because I don't. It's just a pretty poor unit overall. It wasn't a great showing. They can get better throughout the season. Maybe pieces in the secondary get healthy and they gel and become a good unit. But right now, it's not a very good defense, in my opinion. And then going back to the Ravens defense real quick, we were higher than preseason, and then I started seeing stuff from Baltimore Raven fans about how they were worried about the defense. And that gave me pause, because if someone's going to know the team better than me, it's clearly the Ravens fans. And so the fact that they had worries about the defense started making me a little worried, and then we saw them give up 41 points Sunday night. So I also am a little concerned about their defense too, though I'm more concerned about the Bills' defense. JP?
I think there's right to be concerned about the Bills' defense. It is what has pained them every single time they've played Kansas City. Even in the game they played against Cincinnati in the postseason, their defense has been historically top 10 in the league every single year for Josh Allen. And then in the postseason, in their losses, they give up, I don't know the number exactly off the top of my head, but it's 30 plus per game in their losses. So it's always a concern, and for that to happen on night one, I don't think that's gonna, change that. The one thing you could maybe turn it to is like, well, we're playing Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, so that's kind of hard.
There's a great built-in cope.
Yeah,
hard
it
to
just
stop there.
doesn't help when it's like, so are you just going to stop them when you face them in the divisional playoffs?
Agreed. That's the problem. You're gonna have to play him anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's certainly a concern going forward because, like I said, defense wins championships. That is in large part the reason that Kansas City has won all of these AFC championship games. And even in the year, like with the year the Cincinnati Bengals won the AFC championship, they shut down the Bills when they went to Buffalo. And then they went to Kansas City, and Mahomes played arguably his worst playoff game ever. Throwing two picks, choking a big lead. Like, the defense played really well for Cincinnati that day. That is what has been the missing piece for Baltimore and Buffalo. Baltimore, a little less so. The one chance they got, they just couldn't score a damn point. But for Buffalo, that has been the problem, is Mahomes has just outshot them every single time. Or they haven't been able to pick up first downs when they need to.
Sure.
So it's a concern. But you're 1-0. You have the tiebreaker against Baltimore, and Kansas City's 0-1. Right
Off
now,
to a
you're
great
top
start.
of the AFC. You have to take that weekend.
Yeah.
Every single time.
100%. I'd like to point out Sanders just tried to hold my hand.
My hand was there first, and you reached out and
Sure,
touched it.
sure. You can try and spin that story.
I have another thing to hit on. James Cook, JP, was a guy you, in our fantasy preview, you were low on. He had a really great game last night. This is not like, I don't know if this is ball talk, it's almost fantasy talk. What are your thoughts on James Cook's game? Takeaways from that? Are you less nervous about him as a fantasy player or just as a traditional, like, X's and O's running back? Like, what are your thoughts about James Cook's game last night?
Well, I think what helped
Sunday
night. What helped him a ton was just receiving. I don't expect 5 catches, 58 yards every single time. The big thing last year, so in his career, rushing, his rookie year, he only gets 89 carries the entire year, so not a ton of volume, but he has 2 touchdowns. His second year in the league, he plays all 17 games. He has more carries than he had last year, 30 more to be exact. Has 2 rushing touchdowns. And then last year, has 200 carries, 1,000 yards, has 16 touchdowns. That's where the concern was, that is a 14 touchdown difference on less carries. You can only expect regression there. And he played great in that first one, but I don't expect it to be like consistent throughout the rest of the year, especially because like Buffalo likes their other running backs, and for me, it's fantasy-wise, it surprised me James Cook got the receiving volume he got, considering Buffalo still has Ray Davis and Ty Johnson.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's enough to say that like it's changed the way I feel about James Cook. James Cook owners obviously would be happy after last night.
As one, I was very happy after last night.
But I just didn't like where he was being drafted, which was in the early 30s. I just thought that was too high. I think you could get the same value from a guy deeper in the draft like a Chuba Hubbard or Alvin Kamara, who's getting picked about 10 picks later.
Yeah, and I will say 58 is the most receiving yards he's ever had in a game. Sorry, I looked at 2024. I didn't go back past that. 2024 was his big year. He never hit that number last year. 51 of those 58 yards came on the one screen that he stiff-armed a guy, almost got to the end zone. It was a great play. I think that's kind of like the reason I'm hesitant to be low on him, is he is still very explosive. That
was nice to see, considering he didn't practice much of camp. He was in a contract dispute. So that was really nice to see that he was just at least ready to go.
Yeah. And then I'll also say that you compared 2 years ago to last year when he had the 16 touchdowns. They did change OCs between 2 years ago and last year. So there's a possibility the new OC really likes his...
Joe Brady.
Yeah. Really likes getting Cook more involved in the red zone, which leads to more touchdowns, and doesn't want Allen maybe taking hits trying to get in the end zone. So maybe that's a reason.
Allen also had the most rushing touchdowns he's ever had last season too.
Yeah, that's not there's no research to back that. That's just maybe
the new
OC like maybe the reason we saw the increase in touchdowns and it might be sustainable is the new OC just likes giving Cook red zone looks. So I was happy with his performance last night as an owner of him in fantasy.
Well, I mean, that's completely fair. I think you'd be happy with anyone's performance that night outside of Mark Andrews. I think you would have taken anyone else's performance that night.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Big win for Buffalo at home, though. Like JP said, they now kind of control the AFC early on. At this point, there's a very long way to go, but it's a massive start to securing the 1 seed, considering how the weekend shook out. But with that, we can move on. Those are all of our game recaps, and now we can get to Pusilowski's
Pyramid. Dude, Sven left. I wanted to
power
ask
ranking
him.
pyramid.
I was really sad Sven left because he was here and he's talking about how he wanted to watch his guys. I wanted to hear out his guys because Scattaboo did not play well, and Sven's not here, so I'm talking to nobody.
Probably went to sleep.
Scattaboo did on his first carry
I was
truck
g-
2 guys and then drag another guy for 2 yards, and he also was pass blocking with his head. So.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Sven about that. Sven, if you come back and watch this later, let us know. We'll make a specific YouTube video, a message for Sven, and just post that a nice 2-minute video. Scattaboo finished with -3 rushing yards on 2 attempts. His long was -1, so that's tough. That's O-line related though. That's just getting hit in the backfield.
I was surprised he even got 4 touches in the game, to be honest.
Yeah, was it receiving 2 receptions as well?
Mhm.
Yeah, 2 receptions, 12 yards.
I mean, might as well try something. They had nothing going. When Javon Kinlaw has that good of a game, the O-line's not playing very well.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know who the rest of Sven's guys are off the top of my head. I know he likes Scattaboo, and then he's a State fan, so I assume he likes Dak and our other defensive players around the league. I hope.
How many State offensive players are there in the league? Is there any skill position guy in the league?
For the
I don't think so.
the Bulldogs,
For Mississippi State. No.
Woody Marks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if we're claiming Woody Marks, sure, I'll give y'all that
He
one.
went here for 4 years and then.
Emmanuel Forbes did play 76% of the snaps for the Rams this weekend, which is a interesting development. Shout out to him.
Do we get to claim?
We've never had good skill players ever until hopefully now, like maybe one of these guys gets. Brendan Thompson gets drafted.
He gets drafted. Let's just see if he sticks around. He doesn't necessarily have the best size.
If Mekhi Polk had stayed an extra year, he would have got drafted. He would have had another 1,000-yard receiving season.
Sure.
Did he go to the league?
Yeah, he
and
went
just
didn't get drafted, and then was on the Ravens preseason group, and then was on the practice squad, and now he's out of the league.
That's how I feel about Josh Robinson, our 2014 running back. Had like 1,000 yards. Have you seen the play of him against Kentucky? I know you didn't grow up a State fan.
It's likely I have. It doesn't pop to my mind.
Josh Robinson against Kentucky 2014 is running left, gets about 10 yards, breaks 3 tackles, turns around, runs back, breaks another tackle behind the line of scrimmage. So now he's run like 30 or 40 yards and he's behind the line of scrimmage, goes back around the right and turns into like a 30 or 40 yard gain.
That's sick.
It was insane. I watched that live on TV and I was just like, that's insane. He left after that year.
We got some offensive linemen.
We do have a couple offensive linemen. Got a lot of defensive linemen.
I knew that. That's why I intentionally said skill position, because I know the offensive linemen
our
are
most
around.
successful,
Charles Cross, for example.
Elton Jenkins starting center for the Packers.
Yeah, our most successful skill position player is probably the guy Anthony Dixon. Booby Dixon went and played for the 49ers for several years. He's probably our most successful skill position player.
Vic Ballard was on the Colts roster for about 2 years.
Shout out to him.
That's about all. He was great at State, but that was about all. Yeah. Kyron Hill was also on the Packers roster.
Yes, he was for a little bit.
2 years.
He's the guy that got the state flag changed, right? Or is that a different guy? Who am I thinking of?
I don't know.
Was he a running back here?
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
he got
definitely
like
did that
our state flag.
Yeah, he was like part of kind of the like delegation or the group that looked into that.
I didn't know that off the top of my head.
I could be completely making it up, but I'm pretty sure this is right.
I feel like you are.
No,
That does
look it up. Look it up.
Okay.
As we get into JP's power ranking pyramid here.
I'll have to look it up later then, because I cannot do this and look up Kyron Hill changes state flag.
Yeah, don't
Sven,
click it yet.
Are you our viewer, Sven? Are you the viewer? If so, we've been wanting to talk to you. If not, welcome, viewer.
Identify yourself.
Identify yourself.
They immediately
Who are you?
leave. It cuts back down to 0.
Please, if it's Sven, I want to talk to him. And if it's not, if it's someone else, we can talk to you too. We've been talking about Sven and his
talking about state
NFL
skill
guys.
players.
Yes, state skill players and Cam Scattaboo.
Or the lack thereof.
Okay. Well, this I don't think they're going to respond. Do you want to go ahead and
they
get
probably
started?
haven't heard that part yet. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started.
Yeah, we'll start on the power rankings. If they respond, then
Don't
it's
click
Finn.
anything yet. Don't click anything
If
yet.
they respond, then it's Finn. We're pausing this, and I want to hear his thoughts on Cam Scadaboo and his other guys.
Okay, that's fine. So this is the first edition of Pusilowski's Pyramid. It is a power rankings. It is not the standings. It is a pyramid, so it will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I just said 6, 7 live on air. What can you do? And that's the amount of teams that are on each row. The teams are not like it doesn't go left to right in terms of ranking on the row. If you're on a row together, you're of the same tier, in my opinion. These two guys will get the opportunity to move teams up, move teams down. They'll have to give their arguments for that. But without further ado, we're ready for the first edition. After seeing everyone play, first I want to go with the teams
That didn't make
that
the pyramid.
did not make the pyramid in week 1. And they are 4 teams. For one, the Miami Dolphins. Why would they be among the top 28 teams in the NFL? They were absolutely atrocious this past weekend. Tua had 3 turnovers. Really nothing looked good. The Browns. The fact that you couldn't pull off that win is actually kind of a great statement of the future of the franchise.
Celebrate defense, man. They
How many? The Bengals had like 8 offensive yards in the second half.
It was
like that?
terrible. They had every reason to win that game and still could not do it. Joe Flacco actually, I think, he's either second. No, he's top 5. He's 5th in passing yards in the NFL right now as a quarterback. But they only scored 16 points. Kicking was a huge issue the entire day. Carolina is on 0-17 watch. You heard it here second. They looked atrocious, both pre-weather delay and post-weather delay against Jacksonville. Jacksonville is not a great, especially defense, and yet Bryce Young has 2 interceptions. Not a good showing from them. Ted McMillan didn't look great. Chuba Hubbard had a
I think Ted looked fine. I think everything else looked bad. But
Chuba Hubbard had a Mickey Mouse touchdown at the end of the game, and that really kind of was the only reason it looked closer than it actually was. And then, unfortunately, I have the Tennessee Titans here. I just thought the Broncos played so bad that it kind of makes the Titans look that like they are so bad. The amount of drops that they had, they really sold Cam Ward. Jeffrey Simmons was incredible, Bulldog legend, but unfortunately, only 28 teams make the pyramid, and the Titans have not made the Week 1 pyramid. So without further ado, let's reveal Tier 7. And these are the teams in Tier 7. The Colts getting the impressive win against what could be arguably a terrible team in the Miami Dolphins. We'll see going forward. But the Colts are 1-0 and on the bottom tier. The Cowboys, defensively, they're going to have a big struggle. They could not stop the Eagles and really had to score every single possession. And then CeeDee Lamb drops kind of out of nowhere. Chicago, how in the world do you choke that game? J.J. McCarthy, they have less than 75 offensive yards going into the fourth quarter, and they end up with 270. The Vikings score 21 points in the fourth quarter. You have a pick 6 on defense, and you still couldn't win that game. Caleb Williams started 10 for 10, and then just was really piss poor the rest of the way. The Patriots lost to the 2-15 Raiders week 1 at home. So unfortunately, they're at the bottom of the tiers. I just didn't like the way they played. They only scored 13 points against a Raiders defense that doesn't have really any star power.
sure.
They're down there at the bottom.
Other than Max Crosby.
Other than Max Crosby, they really have nothing.
I was just trying to save you from the comments saying, "What about Max Crosby?"
Well, I mean, sure, go ahead. I would love to talk about the Raiders too. We'll see them here in a little bit. Seattle, unfortunately, is at the bottom. That game was all theirs. They had every reason to win that game. Tariq Woolen makes a terrible play on the ball at the end of the game, and a tight end who has never caught a pass in the NFL has 3 receptions, 50-plus yards, and a touchdown to beat you at home. Sam Darnold, classic Sam Darnold, turns it over inside the 7-yard line. You just can't have those things happen. Jackson Smith-Njigba had a tough drop after a really good day. Seattle's on the bottom of the tiers. And then New Orleans and the New York Giants, both vowing for Lenora Sellers right now are sitting there at the bottom of the tiers.
I don't know if the Giants would draft Lenoris because they got their boy. They're high on Mr. Dart.
We'll see how Dart plays when he gets in, which I would
Gonna be
imagine
pretty
is very soon.
because
Malik Neighbors, Russell Wilson.
Dabble was like already not ready to commit to Russell Wilson post game. He's already said now that Russell Wilson's going to start, but the fact that after 1 week he was like, "We'll evaluate and like figure that out" is crazy.
And there was a rumor. It was just a tweet from a random account, so that's the rumor these days, though. But Brian Dable is allegedly came to the owners and asked if he could start Jackson Dart.
Wow,
that is a rumor that's out there. So the fan base is calling for Dart. I'd love to see him play so we can go ahead and get that experiment over with. But let's go to the next tier.
Well, you don't want that because then the Giants might draft Lenore Sellers. Like you don't
Lenore
want
Sellers in New York though would be pretty sick.
Yeah, but like if you want him as a Saints fan, you don't want them to know that Jackson Dart doesn't work until after you've already got your guy.
I'm more of in the camp of I want Lenore to play bad in
Oh.
SEC play and fall to us.
Gotcha. Good luck. I will say he's not necessarily off to a flying start stat-wise.
He's already quarterback one on Daniel Jeremiah and Dan Orlovsky's board.
Well, that's what's going to be my next thing to say is I don't think it really matters how he plays,
Yeah.
though. I think he's going to be top.
Yep. Okay. You ready for tier 6?
Let's go to tier 6. So this is Pusilowski's Pyramid. Tier 6, the second tier. I have the Denver Broncos sitting there on tier 6. I'm sure that might cause some uproar, but they were bad this weekend. A really questionable decision late in the game by Sean Payton. Goes for it to try to, boost Bo Nix's numbers. They're in field goal range with a chance to make it 2 scores. You're up 8, meaning if you don't convert and Cam Ward goes down there and scores a touchdown, he still has to get a 2-point conversion. You're in field goal range. Just kick the damn field goal. They run a deep post route. Bo Nix, bad ball, incomplete. Who's surprised? But the Broncos escaped against a team that's not even on the pyramid. So that's kind of why they're sitting here at tier 6. Arizona let the New Orleans Saints have 4 chances to tie the game late. New Orleans was bad the entire game, and yet they're still in that at the end. Kind of just a bad look for Arizona. It felt like watching that game. That game felt like it solidified for me that they are the worst team in the NFC West, which is how I felt in the preseason. The Falcons gonna Falcon, and so here they are at tier 6, choking a game that they really should have won. The New York Jets are sitting here at tier 6, and that's kind of a surprise, but I think as you get further and further up, you're going to understand that this is where they deserve to be at 0-1. To give up 4 passing touchdowns to Aaron Rodgers, who's 42, about to turn 43.
And that was supposed to be the strength of your team as well. Was
more
the
of a
defense.
bad thing. And the fact that you had Aaron Rodgers in your building, you know how he plays, you know who he likes to target, how he likes to get his guys open. Like Sauce Gardner was the only guy that played well on that defense. Quinnen Williams had a decent day, and the pass rush was a little bit there, here and there. But if you go and watch the film, which you will see tomorrow when I post the video, they were destroyed by the play-action pass. And it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their starting running back was Kenneth Gainwell. It's not like it was Derrick Henry we're handing the ball off to, and that's why you should be worried about the play-action. It was Kenneth Gainwell. And they were getting dusted. 3 passing touchdowns on play-action passes for the Steelers in Week 1. San Francisco, injuries really kind of keeps them here, but they just didn't look great either. McCaffrey was actually a bright spot, which was surprising. And realistically, the Stars won them the game against Seattle. McCaffrey makes a big play on 4th down. Fred Warner was flying all over the field. He looked as good as he ever has. And then Nick Bosa gets the huge pass rush that forces the Sam Darnold fumble. But other than that, they just kind of looked really bad. Detroit is here on tier 6. They were just dismantled by the Green Bay Packers, and that's where they sit. Tier 5. We continue on. Starting off on tier 5, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who got the upset over the New York Jets. Well, they were favoring the game. I guess that's not really an upset. But Aaron Rodgers looked really, really good. 4 touchdown passes. Geno Smith Raiders win one of the 2 games required to meet Sanders' quota. And so here they sit in tier 5. The Jaguars go 1-0. beating the 0-17 Panthers. The Commanders kind of stretch out a win against the New York Giants. They don't necessarily look great offensively. There's some questions there, but there were questions the entire offseason. Terry McLaurin doesn't get a ton of production, but they sit here at Tier 5, and I don't think you can really make an argument for them being higher than the teams above them in Tier 4. And then finally, Cincinnati sits there at Tier 5. It was hard to put them here, but again, those teams in Tier 6, I don't know how you put any of the teams in Tier 6 above the Cincinnati Bengals, even with how bad they played against the Cleveland Browns.
Sure. Before we move on real quick to the next tier.
Absolutely.
Chromie in chat says the Jets will not make the Super Bowl. I think we can all agree with you on that one. And yes, Sanders did only have the Raiders winning 2 games, and he probably is regretting it at this point. That's actually a great question. Is Sanders saying the Raiders only win 2 games more bold than picking Houston to win the Big 12? I would say it is more
I would
bold
agree.
because it's the Big 12. You
Yes.
never know what's going to
Yep,
happen.
I agree.
So, yeah. I'll agree with that one. All right, sorry, you can move on.
Tier 4. This is where we're getting into the good teams. These are the teams that can potentially compete for a Cinderella run to the championship games.
Just dog on my Commanders some more, why don't you? Holy crap. All right, keep going.
I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who got a gutsy win in Week 1 against the Falcons. They didn't really play well the entire game, but they made the plays when it mattered most. Emeka Ibuka has 2 touchdown receptions, and that's a promising sign. Like, if they're able to get their weapons back in full force, like, this becomes the best receiving core in the NFL, potentially competing with Cincinnati there. The Houston Texans I have here in a defensive slugfest against the Rams. They played really well. Puka Nacua kind of tore them apart, but outside of that, like, Kyron Williams was not really productive, especially from a rushing yard perspective. And offensively, I don't have any questions because we kind of know that the Rams' defense is also really good. And they were without Christian Kirk, and there's still no Joe Mixon at running back, which he may not return this season, but I just expect them to take a jump. Nico Collins was not productive, but this is I'm betting on D'Amico Ryans and the Texans to really just kind of get back into form this coming week. I have the Rams in that same tier, who kind of etched out a win against the Houston Texans, and then I have the Eagles rounding out Tier 4 with a impressive, if you ask some people, and a not impressive win against the Cowboys on Thursday night. In Tier 3, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, who lost to the Los Angeles Chargers, who are also here in Tier 3. I thought that was a really evenly matched game, and I think going forward, the Chiefs would be likely favored in any of those games. I just think the Xavier Worthy injury kind of hurt them that entire game, as we talked about earlier. But these are 2 teams I think deserve to be on the same tier, and they don't deserve to be up there on Tier 2, as you'll see. And then the surprise for me, and probably the surprise for you guys, and probably the surprise for the people watching. I see Chromie has already commented on it. The Minnesota Vikings are in Tier 3 for me right now. I just thought it was an unbelievable, gutsy win. And with Kevin O'Connell, the floor is the sky, if that makes sense. Like, this is a team that's going to win 11 games. I didn't predict that to happen because I had concerns about J.J. McCarthy. But with how gutsy he looked in the fourth quarter, as I said earlier, they had, I think it was 67 yards in the fourth quarter going into it. And they end up with 260-plus, score 21 points, and get a huge win against a divisional opponent on Monday Night Football. Standalone game, J.J. McCarthy's first start. All of those things are positive. The defense was excellent against Caleb Williams in the second half. Vikings are Tier 3 for me, but I completely understand the argument I assume one of y'all is going to make to not have them in Tier 3. In Tier 2, I had the Green Bay Packers and the Baltimore Ravens. They were both outstanding this weekend. Of course, Baltimore chokes, but Green Bay offensively, defensively, they were just excellent. And that caps off in Tier 1, of course, the Buffalo Bills, who won 41-40. Josh Allen carries them to Tier 1, personally. Defensively, there's questions, but inarguably, I thought Josh Allen looked as good as he ever has on Sunday night. And that closes it out for Pusilowski's Pyramid Week 1. Again, these are power rankings, not standings. And now I'm interested to hear y'all's debates for moving some teams here and there.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go first, and I'll just start at the top. I personally, I think would still power rank the Ravens above the Bills. It's the same kind of thing we see in college football where teams lose head-to-head matchups, and they're still power ranked above other teams. Ravens lost by 1 on the road. There were 2, I'm going to call them fluky plays in the final 3.5 minutes. The Derrick Henry fumble. Like I said, he's only fumbled 3 times in the last 2 seasons. And then the tipped ball, I think it was a tight end, tipped it, and Keon Coleman catches it. The Buffalo Bills I would have them power rank number 2. They're a fantastic team, but I would still pick the Ravens. I think right now that I was checking, they're tied as Super Bowl favorites. The Packers and the Ravens are all plus 700. The Bills, Packers, and Ravens are all plus 700. So it's a very close race. And it's absolutely, you win that game, like you are allowed to power rank them. I personally would just say the Ravens looked like the better team for 3/4 of that game. That's why I would give them the edge. Also, given that they were playing in Buffalo.
I think it's a very fair argument. Ravens were favored over Buffalo going into that game at Buffalo, where you get 3 points for home field advantage. So Ravens would have been heavy favorites had they played in Baltimore, even in a neutral site if it was the Super Bowl. So I understand that from like a power rating perspective. I do think that like you said, I think the main account here is just the Bills won the game, and they were good enough when it mattered, and they picked up the first downs when it mattered. Bounces can go your way, bounces cannot go your way. You can really never predict that, but the bounces went the way of Buffalo, and for me, that's why they have the top spot.
Yep.
I agree with having Buffalo at the top spot, just for the record, because I get it is a power rankings, but it's not like we're running a computer model here, and they just played, and this week Buffalo won. So I feel like they deserve the nod over that team.
Yeah.
So, but, I mean, it's splitting hairs at the top there. I can go and get into one of my 2 main grievances with this list. Though I don't hate it overall, I think it's pretty well done. I would flip the Commanders and the Texans. I actually think the Commanders played pretty well. I know they're playing the Giants, who's not a great team, but they outgained the Giants by over 200 yards. Deebo Samuel looked good to me. He looked more like 2023 Deebo Samuel. Maybe not quite to that level, but he had over 80 all-purpose yards. They were using him in the pass game. He looked like he was a little bit more back in shape.
He did look back in shape, yes.
Bill Krosky-Merritt played well. I liked what I saw from Josh Connerly. And the defense played well. And so maybe, yes, it's the Giants. The defense won't actually be good.
That would be my argument.
But it's the power rankings, and they look good on this Sunday. And the Texans' offense, yet again, did not look good. I know they were playing good defense, and they were missing people. But right now, I don't think that offense is very good. It may, when people get healthy, round into shape. But I would flip those 2 teams.
I understand that. I think for me, the reason I have the Texans above the Commanders is the Commanders, for me, they played the Giants. I don't think that they were as impressive as they really should have been against New York. And New York has some talent on defense, but like that offense is not great at all, especially with Russell Wilson. The defense made some big plays, but I don't think they deserve to be above Houston right now off of that win alone. I think Thursday night is a huge litmus test for this argument. And if the Commanders are just even in that game and impressive in that game, and Houston kind of has the same kind of performance again, I will be ranking the Commanders over the Texans. But I just think, for me, it's like you could say one could make the argument that the Colts are one of the best teams in the league right now. But I'd argue that they played the Dolphins, and the Dolphins weren't good, and the Dolphins didn't play well. Same argument could potentially be made for the Jaguars. I think that's what holds the Commanders back for me. And 21 points, I think, is just not enough for me to say that, hey, the offensive firepower there, while Deebo Samuel looked a lot better than really anyone expected him to look, to be honest.
Looked better than I expected him to look.
He was kind of the best weapon the entire afternoon, and that it kind of disappoints me a little bit. The running back room, like, I love the hype around Bill Krosky-Merritt. but I'm really wondering if we're going to see consistency there. We didn't really see it last year.
Sure.
But I just have questions there, and Houston's got the same questions, but I thought Houston was in a dog fight with Los Angeles and was up against a really good defense, and C.J. Stroud kind of kept them in that game, and for me, I just got the Houston above them. But I understand that argument.
Cool. Clearly, we view power rankings a little differently because I'll just go and hop into my second argument, which is the
Sure.
Colts should swap with the Jets because while the Colts played the Dolphins, it's a power ranking, and they were wildly impressive. They beat up on, yes, a bad team, but they beat them up. And so I would move them up because they looked better than that Jets team or even, better than that Falcons team on Sunday. Do I really think long-term they're going to be there? No, but they looked good, so.
Yeah, and then I'll also, mine is the same kind of argument. I would switch. It sounds like we're all kind of, me and you are on the same page. I would switch Cowboys and Lions.
Okay.
I think the Lions looked
I'm fine with that.
awful on Sunday, which is really unfortunate because I picked them to win the NFC North, and this is as far as power ratings go, I'm separating this from my predictions. I do not back down on my predictions yet. The Cowboys or the Lions are still going to win the NFC North. I'll double down on that. But they looked so bad. The offense was just non-existent on anything past 5 yards down the field.
Mm-hmm.
And the defense could not stop what looks like it could be one of the best offenses in the NFL and the Green Bay Packers. Meanwhile, you have the Cowboys, who hung with defending Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia Eagles, in Philadelphia. Were basically one or two like drop passes by one of the best wide receivers in the NFL away from winning that game potentially. It was so close to us being like, did Jerry Jones make the right decision trading Micah Parsons? Was Micah Parsons the problem? Not actually, but it was the Cowboys were just very close to winning that game. The Lions were never in that game with the Packers.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
But I also I don't feel like the Lions showed a pulse defensively, and for me, the Cowboys showed zero pulse. And while Dak was incredible from an eye test perspective, most of the game, his numbers don't live up to that whatsoever. His numbers are worse than Jared Goff this weekend. And the Lions, while they weren't really productive, like you said, over anything 5 yards, they showed a little bit more. I think Jared Goff showed a little bit more than that Cowboys offense did. In general, I don't expect the Javonte Williams, experiment to continue to show success as it did in Week 1, which is going to plague some fantasy owners this week. I get the argument, but I just think the Lions, while the Cowboys are in there to that game, the Lions showed a pulse defensively, and the Cowboys showed zero pulse. You could tell in that game, the only way they were winning that game is if they were outscoring the Eagles, which is true in any game.
Right.
Yeah.
But that was the way that game felt. The Lions, at least, I felt like showed some kind of pulse defensively against an equally good offense in the Packers.
So what were so I didn't get to watch the entirety of the Cowboys game. I was at work getting ready for the game on Saturday, college football. They held Jalen Hurts to 4.4 yards a carry. Saquon Barkley, 3.3 yards per carry. Hurts only had 152 passing yards. Like, what was missing defensively? Because statistically, they realistically kind of shut him down. You hold Jalen Hurts to under 200 passing yards. Saquon Barkley under 4 yards per carry. There were 3 rushing touchdowns, but I don't think anyone is going to stop the Eagles from hitting those kind of numbers as far as rushing goes.
This is why, and this is what you didn't see. Here are the first 4 drives for the Eagles. 10 plays, 70 yards, touchdown. 12 plays, 65 yards, touchdown. 8 plays, 81 yards, touchdown. 4th drive, 10 plays, 30 yards, field goal. That's the first 4 drives of the game when your defense is the most fresh, they're the most ready to go. And I think the weather delay helped them a ton in that. Post-weather delay, the Eagles punt into the game. They were able to refreshen up and really kind of game plan again, I guess. And the Eagles were slowed down as well. I think if you just played that entire game in its entirety, the Eagles would have covered the spread. They would have won by double digits because, those are 4 textbook football drives. 10 plays, 70 yards. 12 plays, 65. 8 plays, 81. All touchdowns. they could not stop the Eagles to start that game.
Yeah, the reason
And that doesn't show up on the stat
the
sheet.
stats aren't
Yeah.
impressive. It is the Cowboys just played soft the whole time, and so the Eagles were going to take the 3-yard check down. Jalen Hurts was going to run for 4 yards. Like there was no, they didn't really. They slowed them down in the sense of like the explosive game.
Yeah.
But the Eagles had all the short stuff they wanted, and the Eagles are a team that's just going to take that every time and not force stuff downfield. So it's just pretty methodical moving down the field in a lot of ways.
And then what I'll say to Cromie is I know that the Packers are good and you think they're the second best team in the NFL, but the Lions just looked really, really bad. Like I said, the offense, they scored 13 points. And for the Lions offense to score 13 points, that is bad. That is a bad sign of things to come, in my opinion. It does not set them up for success in the future, even when they do play bad opponents. So I'm nervous about the Lions as far as his power ranking goes. Like I said, I picked them in the NFC North. I'll double down on that because I'm not backing down yet. I'm not scared enough for that yet. But it was a concerning game from them offensively.
What concerned me, and this shows up and also in their drive chart, is that they were able to extend drives. They were able to have these long drives. They have a 3-and-out to start the game, but 16 plays, 78 yards, they only get 3 points. 13 plays, 55 yards, they throw a pick. 9 plays, 59 yards, they only get a field goal. Like, that kind of thing is going to just keep you behind the 8 ball every single time. If you're going to chew up a bunch of clock and then only score 2 points per drive in those 3 drives, that's just not going to get it done. And for me, that's why the Lions are as low as they are on the tiers. They really did look bad, as Sanders is saying. And your argument was Colts moving up with the Jets. I think the Jets looked unbelievably impressive offensively.
I'd actually probably rather put them Colts and Falcons. Flip the Colts and Falcons.
I'm fine with that. We can do that one. I'm fine with that one. But that also surprised me, given that Penix is your guy, and he does
There's
now.
a lot of other guys on the team.
I do believe he leads the league in passing yards behind Josh Allen. Nope, that's a lie. He's 4th, behind Geno Smith.
He had a good game. I feel like
And behind
fans
this guy named Justin Herbert.
got the full Penix experience with him twice reaching for the first down,
That
reaching
was
for the goal line.
insane.
Well done by him. But they just missed a big opportunity there to take advantage of a divisional opponent that was weakened with injuries coming into the season, and they just flopped. So that's why.
I think we missed the chance to really get a full deep dive into that play. The first dive where he fumbles it. If that was like a primetime game, that would have been a 15-minute stoppage discussing. But because we're watching on a red zone, we just go to the next play and we come back to it and finally hear what it is. But was he out of bounds? Was he touched? Did he fumble the ball? Did they recover it? Because he was recovering it, but he was out of bounds when he was recovering it.
Because
that whole play was crazy.
We didn't know for sure that the rule was if you dive, it counts as giving yourself up or not.
I
Also,
suspect that's what I thought it was, and then the announcers were talking like it wasn't, and so I started questioning myself, and I was like, it just doesn't make sense that if you extend yourself forward and the ground causes a fumble, that's a fumble. That felt very counterintuitive. Do we want to answer Cromie's question? Can we pull up the teams left off real quick and talk about? I think this could be a fun discussion. Worst team in the NFL, so the bottom of the pyramid. The one team.
They're the team so bad they couldn't even make the pyramid.
Yeah, these are the 4 teams that couldn't make it. But if you had to pick the worst of the worst,
I think I go Panthers.
For me, it's the Panthers. I thought, offensively they were really, really bad. Chuba Hubbard had, as I said earlier, a Mickey Mouse touchdown, and that was really kind of the only saving grace to the afternoon. That's the only touchdown of the afternoon. It was scored late in the 4th quarter. Bryce Young was almost 50% on completion percentage, which would be one of the lowest of the weekend. Only 150 yards, 2 picks, and both the picks were not good. Chuba Hubbard only has 3.6 yards per carry. Bryce Young was actually kind of productive in terms of scrambling, but offensively they almost have no weapons to go to. And then Jacksonville was productive pre and a little bit of post the weather delay. In the second half, they were not good. But in the second half, at that point, we we were almost at halftime in the 4 p.m. game. So, like, they had
Yeah.
been playing football for literally 6 hours at that point. So, you really don't expect anything offensively. I think they're the worst team in the league right now. I felt like they were going to be coming into the season as well. That's why we made a TikTok on it. That's why
Panthers fans got really mad at us.
outraged by Panthers burner accounts. I'm curious how they're feeling right now after week 1. But it's too early to ask them for an update. We'll let this continue to get worse and kind of fester. Like Bryce Young to have this kind of performance against the Jaguars defense, which doesn't really have any weapons anywhere outside of Foyad, Aluakun, and Trayvon Walker, who's in year 4 at this point.
Josh Hines Allen.
Josh Hines Allen is a good one, but Travis Hunter only played 6 snaps, so it's not even like he was contributing defensively. It was a really disappointing performance.
Yeah, I didn't feel like the Jaguars were that good, and yet the Panthers were so much worse. Danny Dimes, low-key, kind of always has one good early season game where he deals.
Yeah.
He's good enough for one, so we'll
My
chalk this up
pick
to Danny
after
Dimes.
1 week, and this is not like just my 1 week takeaway. The Dolphins looked really, really bad, and I think they had that terrible combination of potentially one of the more talented teams in the teams that got left off, at least offensively. And we saw this is the same offensive roster that 3 years ago we saw cook with Mike McDaniel. And now it's kind of like these are the same guys with the same coach and he's the OC. Like, this is bad. They didn't score a touchdown until the 4th quarter. And it was a bad it was a poorly designed play realistically. To swing it to the running back on 4th and 11 from the 4th and goal from the 11-yard line. Like, that's not a great decision, in my opinion. And so they kind of got lucky that it turned into a touchdown and made it look like a good play. So I would pick the Dolphins just because they really did look awful. I think that they have the largest point diff. They lost by the most. They lost by 25. That looks like the worst.
Yeah,
Worst
I'm pretty
loss
sure that
of the
would be the
weekend.
Dolphins is a very fair pick. So I don't hate that. Yeah, Devon Achane is probably just the Dolphins' best player at this point.
Yep.
So
Tyreek
Which
Hill
I'm
trade
not mad at.
rumors
Giga.
circulating. Back to the Chiefs.
back to the
potentially.
Chiefs would be crazy. I think that's it, though. I think
That
we can
is-
wrap it up.
Yeah, that is the entirety of the show.
I like the pyramid. I'm looking forward to seeing how teams move up and down it, and it changes throughout the year. But that's all we have for this show. So anything else before I close this out?
Nah, I think we're good. Ready for Thursday.
Yep.
Just
We-
to go ahead. Yeah.
Thursday, we will reveal the People's Poll Top 25. You can vote at T25 Sports. We released our top 25s on Sunday. I should probably I'll go tweet those tonight. I'll tweet the 3 of our top 25s.
Yeah. Bet.
Just to put that out there.
We
Go
need
vote.
for the 3 people watching right now before you leave, we need suggestions for a game of the week.
Yes, I'll tweet that out
I'll
too.
go ahead and say, like, I think right now, off the top of my head, which I'm just now pulling up the schedule, we are going to talk about Clemson at Georgia Tech because I'm going to be at that game in the stands.
Yes.
We're going to talk about Georgia,
Tennessee.
for sure. We're going to talk about South Florida, Miami. We'll talk about the state games. That's 4. So we need a 5th. So it's
All right, we got to talk about the A&M.
well,
Notre
we
Dame.
have to talk about
A&M
A&M
Hold
Notre
up
Dame.
now. Hold up now.
So maybe we don't need to talk about. This is gonna. We need a 6th game then.
Do we skip Georgia, Tennessee?
No.
No. I think we still need a kind of a
I knew
suggestion
you were going to
though.
say that, Chromie. I knew you were going to suggest
I mean,
Houston.
If he
that's
gets
the
enough
leader.
votes.
That's the leader. So
that could outdo Florida, LSU very easily. I'm gonna throw my vote in for Central Michigan, of course.
it's a huge one.
Both 1-1. Season kind of on
Chromie
the
just
line.
said the poll is bad, and now I'm nervous. We got 9 votes.
But we need
I'll
suggestions
have to look
for
at this
that.
later.
I
you
guess Chromie's the only
trusting
one
anything Chromie
last one
says?
watching.
Yeah, I mean, Chromie has the leader right now is Houston, Colorado. So
There's
We'll
great
check back
storylines
in.
in that game.
there really are. Houston is favored, I believe,
Houston is favored by 5.5.
which I really did not expect to see. But that just goes to show you that Houston's winning the Big 12. So
Yeah, let's not get too much into college football because I'm getting excited.
Sure.
I can't wait till we start getting to midweek, like Maction, some Tuesday and Wednesday night games. That's what I need in my life. Kind of sucks that we're still at the stage of college because I don't think we have any games tonight, right?
well, I'm watching football right now. So
Well, you're watching football.
That's true.
Let's see. When do we get?
can't wait to be upset as we lose 3-0. And
Yeah, the first game this week is Thursday, so I'm ready for some midweek football. Follow us on Twitter. Chromie, you already do. You'll see it. And
I wish he was here anymore.
leave your votes. You ready to finish it out,
Yeah.
Jack, and get us home and get us off?
Thanks to all who tuned in. It really means a lot, and we'll be back for y'all on Thursday to preview NFL games over the weekend and college football games over the weekend. We will see you then. Peace.
See ya.